want to ask before we start, like, how many of you, raise your hand if it's your first time here at B2B Berlin event? So that is a large portion of you. Okay, so I don't know if you guys go to a lot of other events, but maybe you've noticed, when you go to events in Berlin, what is it usually like, especially tech events. I mean, whose names do you see all over the place? Like Rocket and Zalando and Mobilen Scout. And when you go look in the news in Berlin about tech companies, who do you hear about? Like, I don't know, SoundCloud, Ableton, etc. What are all these companies? They're all in the B2C space. And, well, half of these companies that you hear about, they're all food delivery apps. But if you look to your left and you look to your right, maybe even look at where you work, it's probably a B2B tech company. There's a lot of money in this area to be made all over the world, but for some reason it's just not getting a lot of buzz in Berlin. But as you can see, just looking around this room, a lot of us are working in this industry, but why is it that it's not getting publicity here in Berlin? Well, we think it's maybe because the industry here is a little bit just premature. You look at any other big tech hub in the world, and B2C business always predated B2B. I mean, look at the Valley. Long before you had Oracles and Salesforces, you had Atari. And we just think it's a matter of time before here in Berlin, the B2B tech industry kind of blossoms and comes into full, and eventually we think it'll, compete or maybe even overtake the B2C industry here in Berlin. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's a little bit of ways down the road. For the time being, we're just focusing on a couple companies that we think are interesting every month. Something in a new sector. Tonight we're going to be talking about fintech companies in the B2B space, because we think that these are some really interesting things that could be one of the next, big things coming out of Berlin, and could very well be the first kind of oracle coming out of the city. But I want to hand it over to Spielfeld to say a few words before we go further, who's our host for tonight. And without any further ado, Tobias, you can say a few words.
Welcome from my side. So raise your hand who was never in Spielfeld before. So Spielfeld is a quite new location here in Berlin. We opened up in mid of January. From the outside perspective, Spielfeld is kind of a co-working space for corporates and for startups. In the background, Spielfeld is at the moment a partnership between Roland Berger, the strategy consultancy. I don't know who of you knows Roland Berger. Not comparable to McDonald's, but similar. And Visa, the credit card company. Today the focus is on Visa because we have set up the scene for the fintechs. But maybe just a few words about what is happening here in Spielfeld. I'm the managing director of Spielfeld from the Roland Berger part. So we as Roland Berger thought that we need a new vehicle for our clients in different industries to find a new way to approach the digital projects we do with our clients in different industries and different functions. So instead of walking with like suits and ties to our clients, to a BMW, to a Mercedes-Benz, to a Deutsche Bank, and trying to explain them digitalization on PowerPoint charts, we invite them here to our space and work with us here together on these projects. And by including partners from our networks, like design thinkers, like mobile app developers, like user experience designers, to really go into the rapid prototyping of specific products and digital services. And then we have bigger companies, like for example Visa, who are not only the co-founding partner of Spielfeld, but also have their own innovation teams located here. And instead of having their own incubator accelerator program here in Berlin, they saw the chance that combining the forces with other clients and to brighten up their perspective is a much more effective way to work on their own innovations and digitalization. So this is about Spielfeld. We are here in Kreuzberg. We're located on 3 floors. 2 of the floors are co-working spaces, where on the one hand startups are sitting at the moment, 4 startups from different industries, and corporates. At the moment 3 Roland Berger projects are run here, and then a lot of workshops on the day-to-day basis. And we have 1 floor only dedicated for events. Actually, this floor is not ready today and would also be too big for this group here. So that's the reason why we have this arena, where I hope that you have a nice evening today. I think we have excellent speakers from Visa. It's Adam, innovation partner from London, explaining you their approach on their innovation, what they are doing. And yeah, so great networking. And I have to leave later on, but we have Nicola here. She's our event manager and also responsible for our relationship management. So whenever you think that you can also want to become a part of Spielfeld, either as a startup looking for a new space or as maybe a company, as a service provider, want to become like a part of our network, then feel free to approach Nicola and yeah, enjoy the evening.
Before we begin with presentations from our speakers tonight, we're always looking for people from the crowd to stand up and say a little bit about what they're doing, because we don't just want to hear from startups who are a bit more mature and maybe have a full presentation to give, but maybe some other people who are, whether or not with the startup themselves, just want to introduce themselves to the room and say a little bit about what there is that they're doing. So we have two people tonight who are going to say something, and I just tell you all before I say these names that mispronouncing names is totally my thing. But first up is Thomas Cooke.
Yep. Hello. My name is Thomas. I'm the editor-in-chief of Gründermetropole Berlin, and we are a small later-stage online magazine in Berlin, partnering with Deutsche Startups and Venture TV. And I would like to invite you to talk to each other about interesting topics you would like to give us for reports, for photo stories, whatever you are interested in, or what kind of stories you have. Let's talk later on about your PR stuff you would like to give us, or our partners, for example, Deutsche Startups or Venture TV. You're welcome.
First presentation of the night is from, and again, mispronouncing names is my thing, Konrad Erzberger. He's the Senior Business Development Manager at Solaristan. Konrad?
Yeah. Perfect. So my name is Konrad, as you said, and you pronounce it completely fine, and thank you very much for having me here. And respectively, Solaris Bank, which is a really new bank from Berlin, actually. It's like 2.5 months ago that we had the signature from Mario Draghi, and he signed it off. Yeah, we get the banking license as it is now, because we don't get it from the German institution, but it's Europe, right? So, I held a similar presentation at SAP at the Fintech roundtable, and it was really specific, and the feedback was that I rushed through the slides, and so I think I want to stop right here and then maybe flick through the slides later, because I think it's too much. So where did this all start from? You know all that banking sucks, right? Basically, I mean, all like if you're applying with Deutsche Bank or any, I'm not calling out names, Commerzbank, you can take anyone. They have high fees. They don't give you something on the money. I mean, like the Sparkassen, I think they're obliged to give you some interest. So they give you 0.001% or something. It's ridiculous. And while they still charge you for lending purposes, they still charge you a lot of money. But more specifically, since we are now here at the B2B space, and we talk B2B, and we are a strictly B2B company, because we only service other businesses that can then serve customers, could be consumers, could be businesses, etc. So there are a couple of banks, but not the major ones. So we have 2,000 institutions in Germany, right, or 1,800 something that have a banking license. Most of them are Volksbanken and Sparkassen, etc. But only few, like 5 to 10, they focus on B2B, and they're called white label banks. We prefer banking as a platform, but it's known as white label banking. And so we have Wirecard, we have BEW, BRW, we have Fidor, we have MHB, and some other banks, Sutor in Hamburg. And they all sort of like, they had some legacy, they had some business, or they also, like Fidor, they approach like the customer base, but they also want to serve fintechs or e-commerce providers, etc. So they sort of do it on the side, like not really as their focus thing. And so wasn't my decision, but I think it's a great idea, and I just strongly endorse it. I think because I was previously at Rocket Internet, I worked for Lendico, so we work with Wirecard, for instance, right? And they're great guys, and they're professional, etc. Really expensive, but we felt, or I felt like they're really slow. So I mean, it goes for others as well. So they have 2,000 people. Like they're already massive. They're billions in market valuation. Their market cap is, I mean, it has plummeted a bit, but it's a good story. You can buy the share. I mean, it's a good story. But in the end, they don't talk the language of fintechs, and they don't have like the best APIs, and they don't abstract so much. I think we really start on a green field or a blue ocean. I mean, there's many words to say it, but from the ground up, right? So we start from the very beginning. We put together a team of very well experienced bankers, but also like very tech savvy people. And so this combination, this melange. I mean, you know this saying like the whole is more than the sum of its parts or something. So this is really what I think what creates value in this context. So and so we work with great variety of businesses. We have now onboarded Fashion Check. I think that's you probably don't know it, but it's a check where you can go to Rewe and you can get an open loop model. You can get a voucher and give it to your girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, and then they can go to I don't know car shop and get their dress or whatever, because you don't know what they like, etc. And then what we do is keep the money, and so we hold the money in escrow for them. And they were previously with BIW, but they were really unhappy, and so that's not a big innovation. And I'm not here to say like we reinvented the wheel and we're like the best guys ever, and we do a lot of mistakes and we have a lot of fuck ups, and I hope we do more things right than we do things wrong. Yeah, but in the end, I hope we can create some value here by assisting existing businesses or even startups through not only banking or regulation. This is all the back end, but really the interesting part is where we consider ourselves a tech company and look for automation and scalability, etc. And that gives them access to the world of finance, which is really broad. We can do anything. We could obviously lending, investing, keeping money. We can do mortgage lending. We can do we can do an IPO. We can do like there's so many different FX, right? The currency conversion, payment, international payment, Bitcoin, etc. So there's like if you look at the finance space, you have basically insurance and finance. And I think in the insurance space there will also be very soon there are already movements towards a platform approach, really open. You know, everybody trusts each other, and you open yourself up, and that creates new value because people come together, etc. So now quickly, this is as I said, like it all starts and ends with the team basically. So this has already grown, and actually very few have dropped off, maybe 2 or 3, but it's growing, and it's this nice mix of like experience in different areas, and as you see, they all have like I think good track records. So what we see in the finance space is that the market shares are being taken away from the big guys because they're like elephants, right? So they're not so agile. So there's like cheetahs coming around, etc. And they take away some of the space. So you see all the different things, right? And they all need banking services. And at the end, I don't know if it comes later, but in the end, what you also will see in the finance world is that it will be aggregated again, right? Because you have also an e-commerce, so there comes an Amazon. There was a time where you would have a special store for everything. Like if you want to, I don't know, buy a fish tank, there would be a fish tank shop. And if you want to buy a skateboard, you would go to the skateboard shop. And same as in banking, but it will be aggregated again by number 26, for instance, on the consumer side. And we want to do this on the business side. So we want to aggregate all the Bartsans, FX, etc., all the like KYC, know your customer, right? That you can onboard them, etc., identify them, fraud prevention, etc. Will all be on our API, so one-stop shop for everything related to finance. And so they all need banking services, and usually if they go to a regular bank, they need to go through all the levels, right? And they're sent down and up and down. I mean, there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of, like if you talk, I'm not dropping names again, but like there's a couple of players where you really have to talk, I'm not kidding, to 20 different departments to be on board, yeah? And there's not only legal, but there's legal, compliance, regulation, etc. It's crazy. So what we want is like a more flat approach where you can just take whatever you want. So you already know what you want. So you have a certain idea of business model, and we also discuss it with you, challenge it, etc. So in a way we also we do this for free, obviously at the beginning, and so we discuss what you need, and then you can get it. And so in the end, what we want is also like more like an Amazon shop or something where you click and buy. So you want like credit, okay? Here you have like the 5 different variations, and here you have the API documentation. Here are your prices. Welcome, yeah, and then you can onboard next day basically. I mean that's where we headed. That's not where we are right now, but I mean. Okay, so and what we also say is that we're the Lego bank, so we have different bricks. This actually corresponds to this, right? So we have the different doors, whatever. I mean, choose your image, but in the end it's separate or abstracted parts or pieces that you can then recombine, because that's, and quite often they also come from partners, right? So KYC, we're not an expert, so there's video ident, I think was introduced last year or the year before by BaFin. It's a really cool thing where you can just like look through the screen of a smartphone. You can say hello, show your passport, etc. Wiggle it a bit so that the security identifications methods are proven, etc. So we cannot build everything, but we try to aggregate and use that. So a lot of these are from us, others are and increasingly so are from partners. So whatever you want, you can basically pick it off the shelf or build your own castle with Lego bricks, whatever. If you want to build a bridge, you can build a bridge. So this is how we see ourselves. So we have at the core, that's basically regulation, etc., risk, and so on, like legal stuff, etc., finance. And then we have the API. So in the middle, there's also a core banking system, which we bought. We didn't bought, we leased it basically. So like we say, like Tesla, they didn't build everything. So I don't know, the window wipes, they don't care about that. It's more about the design, etc., bringing it together, that they can update it through software, etc. And then we have this actually where our action happens. It's on the API layer. So where we can basically give our customers access to capital markets, to payments, etc. And then here are the partners, and then the end customers. So the nice model, as you all know, B2B, the beauty is you can scale it really fast because you grow with your partners, right? If they increase in size and have more customers and you onboard more partners, you have like a double effect. And so we also say, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, we call them first few fintechs and second few fintechs. So you have like the number 26s of the world, and you also have second few fintechs, and these are more like e-commerce plays. Could be some. I'm pretty sure there's some of you sitting here thinking about like how we can. Do I still have time? Okay. There's actually a lot of and even like publicly listed companies that have huge success in the online marketing area, like Check24, Zalando, Scout, etc. Like the major, and it's not all food delivery, but there's certainly also a lot of food delivery. And they all think about like, do I want to offer my customers maybe a bank account? Maybe I want to give them credit. Maybe I want to give them the money they deserve earlier through factoring. Like I'm going to factor that, right? That maybe they want the money now and they're happy with a deduction of 3% or 2% or 1%, whatever. Or maybe they want a guarantee, or you can combine whatever. So there's like the big behemoths, and it could also be like the German Mittelstand, could also be Roland Berger customers, right? Could be Mercedes-Benz, etc. They're all going to bring banking to their cars or smart TV. You can buy on TV, etc. Maybe also on credit. I mean, there's so many ways. And then obviously, like what we also serve is fintechs. But obviously, the more lucrative things are the big guys. But the hope is, and we kind of look at fintechs more like a VC, because we also, we invest resources, so we look at them really closely. But this is great also, and I'm a strong believer in fintech that it actually will change a lot. And also, I hope that in like 5 or 10 years, we will have like much more for the money on the investment side, and on the lending side, we will also not be so fucked. Sorry for the word, but yeah. Okay, so, and what is also great about Europe and the Mario Draghi thing, etc., is we can passport, so you have the option to go to the 30 EEA countries, so including Norway, etc., Switzerland with iffy, but everything, like, yeah, and so, for instance, Fashion Check is already in Belgium, in Netherlands, they're really, really big, well-known, Austria, etc., other countries, and so this is also, that's a great thing about Europe, that we can basically serve from a German bank license, we can serve all that market, so that's really cool. And there's even options beyond that, but we focus on Europe. And that's it, basically. Questions? Yeah, there you go.
Are you a rapper on Free Fire?
I'm not, no. But I should consider maybe. Was it, I don't know, was it... Maybe I'm a bit excited, so I'm happy to speak to you. I hope that, I don't know. And I'm really enthusiastic about the product, actually. When I was at Rocket, there was a discussion whether we want to build a bank, and actually I talked to them, and then I was a really strong believer that they, and I still believe they should have, because it really cost them a lot. But basically they're, I'm not talking, okay, whatever, but they should have, long time ago, yeah.
So why did you decide not to be a bank as a, let's say, a consumer-facing entity, but why did you choose to be B2B? Or like just a bank?
It's good. Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, there's a couple of reasons. So I think there's already some efforts like number 26, etc. They try to make it beautiful, the front end, etc. But it's also, I think, comes with customer acquisition costs. So like a regular online, you want an account, you pay the affiliates like 130, 150 euro. You pay for the customer, right? And then they want a free account, etc. So it's really difficult to make money on them. And so if you approach businesses, you can scale more. Like what I tried to explain earlier is like that you onboard one partner, one business, and they already have customers. You don't need to acquire them. They also pay you for that, right? And you're going to grow with them, and you're going to onboard more. So that scalability comes into play.
So you thought it's more lucrative to be the back end than to be...
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's more lucrative, and I think it scales more. Basically, you have less loose ends, and but in the end, it's also not so straightforward. I mean, that's basically the core, the essence of what we are. But you still like for instance, on legal basis, you will always enter into agreements. So number 26, not to overuse it, but I mean they're great guys. I respect them, and they have Wirecard as a partner bank, right? So everybody is actually a customer of Wirecard through the interface of number 26.
Yeah.
But and they want to change that, and which will be a real pain and will be real pain. You know what? So no, they will have some transition pain and to the firm. Yes.
How can I trust you? Because banking
Sure,
and payment
sure. Absolutely.
is how? Because banking and payment is a lot of trust. You can't buy it, and it's not a question of your VCs. It's a question of your founders and your behavior.
Very, very good question. Because we are a young institution, and obviously we have no legacy. We're not since 18 whatever. We're since 2016, right? So as new as it can get. I mean, I don't think there's a newer bank or something in Germany or whatever. So the trust thing, yeah. So I think first of all, as the team. No, I think the team is really sound and good, has good standing, etc. They all have track record. You can track them, you can talk to them, etc. They have built banks before. So I mean, I think 5 or 6 banks were built by like the core guys, I would say, like our MDs and some others that are more in the background, right? On the other hand, I mean, we are regulated by one of the toughest regulators in the world, and that is BaFin, and they really check us, and Bundesbank, etc. So we reported them, we report our numbers, etc. Through the application process. They screened everything, and we have KPMG is our auditor, for instance. I mean, there is a gap. We can only try to convince you and the public, etc. And I think also the products, etc., will show that we take it very, very seriously. That we take consumer protection seriously, data protection, etc. And that, I mean, in the end, I mean, this is all I can say basically. It's there. I think we're legit. I hope the world will follow. And on the other hand, I mean, what's the alternative? If you go to Deutsche Bank, are they trustworthy?
With all companies now on the internet, you've got revenue from all around the world. How do you handle that?
As you see here, we go only in Europe, so it's all euro or zloty, etc. So I mean, but it all lands on our account. Or I mean, you have also SWIFT, so and SEPA, etc. So you have different payment methods that are already. I mean, the systems are in place. You just need to tap into that resource. I mean, there's clearance, settlement, etc. It's all there's people that have done it forever. There's exchanges, etc. We don't need to run an exchange ourselves. It's just about like connecting the dots.
Can I just ask one last one? Just about the size of your customers. I mean, do you consider also cooperating with the small companies, or just you focus on the big players? So how does it look like?
It really depends, Tomek. It really depends. So we have, I mean, as I said, like we also we like these big guys, second view fintechs. They follow this slide. But we also have I think like.
But do you consider, for example, cooperation like with just a startup who is just like setting up They
sometimes don't even have funding.
I don't know,
Yeah.
new shop when we want to integrate some payment solution and we would like to choose you, but we do not have yet the customers. We expecting to
But
have
maybe that
thousands of them in next year or something like that. But is it a stage where the company can start talk to you, or you prefer to have some proofs that we can get that many payments for that particular amount, or how does it look like?
Of course, all you guys are asking, or folks, are asking, what's in it for us, right? What's in it for me? So, if it's a small, really boring product that is commoditized, then we tell them, okay, go to these guys. It's not interesting for us. But if it has potential to become really a big success, we maybe will be able or willing to place that bet and have more calls, meetings, etc., and then discuss it a bit further and even commit on that and go and basically take risk.
Thanks. That's it. I think that's about all the time we have. Okay, so the next presenter we have is Stephanie Belle, the COO Assistant from OptioPay. And Stephanie, I'm going to give you this presentation and take it away.
So, thank you, Greg. Yeah, again, my name is Stephanie Belle from OptioPay. So, at OptioPay, our fundamental target is to change the way people receive and spend money. So, for how people receive and how they spend money at the same time. So, to begin with, I want to give you a few facts. We're a Berlin-based company. Actually, we are based only a few hundred meters down the road. You might know the Pirates event location building, so this is where we also sit in the third floor. We were founded in December 2015 by these 5 entrepreneurs who have all before successfully founded startups. We started, or until now, we collected a funding of 7 million euros, which is quite impressive. Our investors are, for example, Commerzbank or the International Audit Group. Currently, we employ 42 employees from 18 nationalities. So this just happened by accident, more or less, but we're a very multinational team. And the idea that OptioPay was derived from came from our CEO and founder, Markus Berner, who also founded Rebuy before. You might have heard it. It's the German biggest reseller for electronic devices and books and all sorts of products. So they buy your used articles from you, and you have the option to either say, okay, give me 100 euros for my used DVD player, or you can choose a higher value gift card. So people love it. So the actual conversion rate was 10%. 10% of the people who bought or who sold their stuff to Rebuy actually chose the higher value gift card. And but I mean, Rebuy is only one retailer. There are so many retailers. There are so many companies issuing payouts on a daily basis. Now, when you think of payouts, what would you think of? For example, you might have taken the train here today. You might have traveled with Deutsche Bahn, and your train was delayed. So, which can happen, and they would pay you back. They would pay you delayed payments, right? So, and all of us hopefully get our salary each month. You probably ordered shoes at Zalando, you didn't like them, you returned them, they will pay you back. So there are many reasons why companies issue money to their customers. On a daily basis, billions and billions of money get paid out to customers for all these different reasons. And imagine how huge the potential is to dig into that, to make use of these payouts. So this is where the idea of founding OptioPay was derived from. So until now, the traditional payout method was like that. A company, we call them an issuer, pays out 300 euros via bank transfer to a recipient for a delayed payment, let's say that. But here, is this a point? Yeah, here it's a very, very unspectacular bank transfer, but there's so much potential hidden, right? And so this is where OptioPay kicks in and creates kind of a whole new value chain, because instead of getting a normal bank transfer, recipients can now choose to receive a higher value gift cards from advertisers, so they can actually make more of their money. Let's go back to the 300 euro example. The recipient can choose to get, for example, a Zalando voucher, get an increase by 10% and increase the actual payout to 330 euros. So this is where a win-win situation arises. So not only the recipient makes more of his money, but we have issuers, recipients, and advertisers who all gain from that transaction. So you might think, why would companies work with us? I mean, because only the recipients and the advertisers make more. So issuers utilize the payouts or the potential of payout touch points. So the moment where recipients or where we all receive money is very emotional. I mean, for example, imagine again the delay payment. You were very upset because you missed your train, you're getting home late or whatever, you're getting to work late, and you're really annoyed by that. And then you receive an email from Deutsche Bahn, for example, or an airline if you missed your flight, and it says, okay, we're very sorry for what happened, but we're going to give you more money back, or you can choose the option to receive more money back than you actually paid for your flight ticket. I mean, wouldn't that leave you behind a bit more soothed down and say, okay, things like that happen, but in the end you're left with more money? And so that it's also a way for issuers to differentiate themselves from their competitor, and they can create a whole new revenue stream by that. This is because they can turn a cost center by only giving away money into a revenue center. Because we as OptioPay split or give them a share of our revenues. And they open up a whole new revenue stream. Our revenues we create by issuing the advertiser's commission. So for every successful customer, or for every successful voucher sale through our platform, advertisers pay us a commission fee, and that commission fee gets paid back or gets split up with the issuer. Yeah, as I already mentioned, advertisers or recipients get exposed to the brands and the advertisers in a very favorable and vulnerable moment where they receive money and they are liquid and they want to spend it. And why not spend your money on buying a voucher when you needed new shoes anyway, or Christmas is here in 2 days and you haven't bought all your presents. So as I will show you later, the variety of advertisers that cooperate with us really covers all your daily necessities. And in the very core of our business model, we have the recipient who choose the most beneficial payout option for themselves. Because they make more money out of their money, and it's a very flexible system. Because you don't, if you get your salary each month, for example, you don't have to buy vouchers every month. You get the option over and over again. You don't have to buy vouchers at all, or you can split up the amount, your salary, to whatever number of vouchers you want. And also the higher flexibility can be derived from having the bank transfer, or also we offer different services like PayPal. So we get different payment service provider into our system as well. So this is the OptioPay platform. A very unique thing that we offer to our issuers is a white label solution. So the platform only appears in their corporate identity, right? In the colors, and it shows the logo. So we don't really appear in that moment, but the recipient of the money will only see, oh, I get the money from whatever airline, I get the money from Deutsche Bank. And as here you can choose between the office and the vouchers and the bank transfer. In your wallet you see by how much you actually increased the payout you received. Until now we can say we have more than 100 advertisers on board who add up to 100% of added value. I think at the moment the average value is 11%. So as I already mentioned, they really cover all your daily necessities, I don't know, Zalando, Fernbus, insurances, flowers, and so on. At the very core center of our business model, we have 5 solutions: banks, insurances, HR, energy, and e-businesses. So as I said, Commerzbank, for example, is also one of our investors. Energy payouts, I mean, in Germany we used to pay for electricity in advance, and the next year you will receive some money back if you have not used all the electricity you paid for. So these are all industries that issue, as I said, billions of euros on a daily basis. So it's a very, very innovative thing. It's really new, and even though it sounds maybe easy and not too complex, no one ever has done it before. So I mean, have you ever thought about advertising or marketing money? But you can actually make money out of it. So this is why at the moment there are really no direct competitors to what we do. There are a few, there are companies that we call related market participants because they offer parts of what we do. For example, Raise, it's a gift card retailer, and there you can say buy gift cards on a discount rate and also sell your unwanted gift cards. Xenop's an advertising platform where you can market your product. PayPal, payment service provider who we all know. But in the very center of all this, OptioPay integrates all these various business models and creates a whole new experience. So yeah, that was it. Stay tuned. And I just wanted to say that I brought my colleague, Franziska. She's doing the advertiser sales in our company. So maybe you want to catch up with her later. Yes. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Adam Cooke. I'm an innovation partner at VisaEuropeCollab. My presentation is going to be slightly different to the two that just preceded me. We are not a startup. Visa as a company started, I think, in 1960s or something like that. We're a huge multinational company. I think the 4th biggest brand in the world. And so it'll probably be slightly different. Now, VisaEuropeCollab is the innovation arm of Visa Europe. But before I go on to that, I think it's good just to have a bit of context into what Visa Europe is. So we are a payments company. All we do is move money from an acquirer to an issuer, or from an issuer to an acquirer, depending on the scenario, and that's pretty much it. Our innovation journey really started probably 5 or 6 years ago, when we started to realise that these new players like PayPal and other types were starting to eat into our market share and starting to give us a little bit of a threat. And so to try and combat that, we started a few large-scale programs designed to be able to address new market opportunities and be able to do so at scale. So we invested hundreds of millions of pounds into these different programs over 3 or 4 years, and what we found was that they didn't get the traction that we thought they were going to get. They didn't get the traction that we really needed as a business. We realised that this wasn't the way to go. It wasn't the way to invest huge sums of money into big programs which were built from the ground up to be 100% reliable, to be 100% effective. It just wasn't going to work for us. And so we took the decision probably about a year and a half ago now to try and change that mentality, to try and have, instead of having all our eggs in 1 or 2 baskets, to move those baskets out to maybe 30 or 40 different individual projects with the hope that maybe 3, 4, 5 or 6 of those might come to fruition in the future. And from that, VisaEuropeCollab was born. So this is our mission as a division inside Visa Europe. We are here to talk to, we are here to interact with startups, with scale-ups, even incumbents depending on the right situation, to try and drive value for Visa Europe in the future. And we are based in 3 different locations. So we originally launched in London in January 2015. Obviously, Fintech capital of the world. It's where our headquarters are, the right place to be. A couple of months later, we then launched in Tel Aviv. Obviously, the startup nation, more startups per square meter than anywhere else in the world. Made obvious sense. And then finally, moved across here to Berlin, a couple of months later after that. We are a small team of 20 to 25 people. Again, similar to what Tobias said earlier, a cross-functional team across different skill sets and different experiences. And as I say, we're here to work with small businesses and startups and things. Now, before I go into talking about how we actually operate and how we actually do things, this is a really important quote to me. And it's something which is easy for us to try and forget as a small division, as a small, almost company really, especially when we have the backing of what Visa Europe is behind us. So we're not here just to look into fancy individual things. This is more about having that vision into the future of where we can scale our ideas and where we can turn into, say, ideas into invoices. I'll let you all take a couple of photos first. So, Visa EuropeCollab, we see ourselves as sitting across the first 1.5 moments of innovation, as we like to call it. So our whole thing really is to work with a startup, maybe work with a member or an issue or an acquirer as well over the course of a project, but definitely just with a startup at least over the course of a time-boxed proof of concept or proof of technology, to work with them to do whatever is necessary to prove out the idea that they have or that we have or whatever we think will be valuable in the future. So we might run a proof of technology with someone, if it's something to do with blockchain, for instance, something totally new for us, just to prove that it works. Or if we've already proved that something works, we might look to do a proof of concept instead, to put a different concept in front of our clients, in front of their eventual consumers if need be, to learn where it's best, to learn where the value is in the idea. And if there is no value, we kill it, we move on, no hard feelings. And as I say, hopefully 10, 15% of the project that we do will then make it into the second and third stage. The second stage of our 3 moments of innovation is to move the proven project and take it fully to a market. So during the first small proof of concept, the first 100 days or so, we might have tested this in front of 20 consumers. We might have gone to one merchant, one retailer, something like that, and be able to actually implement our small project. Obviously, that's not going to be good enough in the long term. So we then take that to a beta launch. We take that to a limited market, maybe a city, maybe a whole country if needs be, depending on the scenario. And again, we prove out the actual project itself. We make sure that it has the uptake with the consumers that we want it to, the clients that we want it to. And then, if that's successful, we then move into the commercialization stage. And this is what Visa Europe as a whole company really does. It really does well. So we are all about scale. We have however many hundreds of transactions going through our systems every second. I think our max was 650 in 1 second around Christmas time last year. But it's important to pull out this little blue bubble right here. So over the course of how we do innovation for the first 2 moments, yes, we have that view of the long term of how we can make money out of this idea, but we don't do any calculations. We don't put 500 million opportunity on it. We don't put those kind of labels. on the project, because we know that that just kills everything we want to do. People in the hierarchy then start saying, okay, so where are we against those numbers? Where are we going to hit this? Blah, 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 that kind of stuff. It's not what we're really into. And we had to learn that the hard way, unfortunately. But this is what we mandate to the business. This is what we're starting to see to be quite successful now. So how did we go about doing these projects? How did we start? As I say, we launched in February of last year, so we're just over a year old now. And what we first did, as we weren't really aware of the startup scene, we didn't really know too much about it ourselves, we went, and it's a quite good analogy, we went and kissed every single frog out there, hoping that one would be a princess for us. So in the first 9 months alone, we met with over 700 startups in our small team of 20 to try and learn about how they do things, learn about how they work, learn what is successful for them, to learn what the ecosystem works with, how the ecosystem works rather. So we partnered with academia, we partnered with incubators, we partnered with accelerators, all these kind of people, just to learn about how we're supposed to be doing things. From that, a few interesting projects fell out, and there's a couple to do with restaurants, there was a couple to do with new retail journeys and things like that. But we learned that we were getting bogged down a lot with just meeting new people without actually able to start to deliver on anything that we were really doing. So in September, October time last year, we sat down as a team and said, hey, we need to take a step back, we need to refocus ourselves. And so from that, we found 6 key themes which we have aligned ourselves to and which we work towards. So it's these 6 as you can see now: blockchain, identity and authentication, emerging retail journeys, smart city, B2B and inclusion. And the little orange boxes you can see just below the names, that shows our indication of how well developed we are in those kind of spaces. It was more for our board, it's just the same presentation we use. So, the different themes that we have. Blockchain, obviously a very sexy place to be in. A lot of people are talking about this, a lot of people are saying that it's going to change the world and things like that. That's very interesting, but we need to make sure what we are doing are the right use cases. It's all well and good saying, can I have a blockchain? Can I replace my system with a blockchain? But if what you have is a very effective Oracle database, there's not really any need to replace it with a blockchain. So we're making sure that what we do is going to be relevant in the future. So we're looking at such things as international remittances. How can we talk between different players? A B2B payments network. We're looking at provenance and how you handle documents and all those types of things. Making sure that there's a genuine value in what we do. The next is identity and authentication. Obviously, security, as someone mentioned earlier, is a huge part of what payments is, and a huge part of allowing our clients as consumers to actually adopt new payments models. And so we are looking at things a bit further in the future. So obviously we've seen that Apple Pay and Android Pay have now launched in the UK. That's fantastic. I love using it myself. Then I always get frustrated when I can't use Apple Pay and I have to input my card and use chip and pin. To me, to know what's out there is really unfathomable, really. So there's such things as behavioural biometrics, which are how you use your smartphone and how you walk. So my gait, how I walk up and down the street, is unique to me, and it's a way of identifying myself. So we're looking at such things as I can be walking down the street, I can be swiping on my smartphone, which again, how you use it, how I scroll my Twitter is unique to me. And then walking straight into a store, not having to input your PIN, not having to do anything like that, because your bank knows, due to your smartphone's information, that you are in the right place, that you are still using your phone, so I've still got it in my hand. And those sorts of smooth journeys. Obviously, that sounds very much B2C in terms of this context of this group, but that couldn't happen unless we as Visa talked to all the parties and we made sure that we were the person in the middle, and that's exactly what we're very good at. That brings us nicely onto emerging retail journeys. What I just said to you in terms of how you can authenticate yourself, that's a new retail journey. That's something which you won't have seen before. Never before have you been able to just walk into a store, take your goods and leave because someone knows that you are you and you are okay to pay. I guess I always like to see Visa, the company, as a utility, such as your water, such as your electricity. Sorry. as I said, so with your water and your electricity, you never notice they aren't there. You never notice they're there, rather, until they break down. You never notice who your water company is until you have to call them up saying that your taps aren't working. That's how I see it as being Visa, and that's how I see that being impacting the retail journeys of the future. The next is smart cities. This is definitely quite interesting for me, at least. This is all about the Internet of Things and the connected car and how we can play a part. So as I said, we sit in the middle of 3,500 banks within Europe alone. Extrapolate that out to the rest of the world, and I don't even know how many players there are, how many banks that we as Visa talk to, and the middleman in between all of them. How can we then take that capability as a company and move it into the IoT world, move it into the connected car space? That's the kind of things we're looking at the moment, and we'll see a lot of stuff coming out of our Berlin hub to do with that. The second last one is B2B. This is our data play, although not data as you would traditionally know it. There's been a lot of speak over the past couple of years about big data, about how companies can better utilize the kind of information they have. But this doesn't look at that. This looks at how me, as a consumer, can interact with businesses. I won't dwell too long, because obviously that's not too relevant for here. And then finally, there is inclusion. This is all to do with challenger banks, such as number 26, as mentioned earlier, and the unbanked of this world. How the rest of the globe and people aren't being so fortunate, how we can bank them. And one such example is M-Pesa and BitPesa, the kind of things you see in Africa, extremely interesting to us, and how they've been able to put together solutions so quickly. That was all I had for this presentation. Is there any questions at all?
I didn't really get how you collaborate, or do you only collaborate with startups? Do you build your own ventures? How does it work?
So we aren't an investor, we're not a VC, we purely collaborate with startups. So we will either have an idea or we'll see a startup that is interesting to us. We'll open a dialogue with those, and we'll try and run a small proof of concept project. As I said, we make all of our money moving money and transactions between an acquirer and to an issuer. As interchange goes down, that's where we make our money, the percentages from each transaction. As that's squeezed down, our revenues are going to be going down. So we need to look to different sideways kind of ventures and different opportunities, and that's a little bit of what Collab is that first stage really, and getting us over the line to start scaling those kind of solutions.
So not looking for equity in this company,
No,
not going to invest later on.
If in the future, if we get to this stage, maybe somewhere in here, and we realise that the company, this is really going places, and we need to keep it exclusive to us, then we might look to invest. But traditionally, Visa has been very poor at that. I think we've made one investment in the past 4 years, something ridiculous like that. So that's something which we're hoping to change in the future. One of our mandates is really to push our innovation knowledge and capabilities out to the rest of the wider Visa Europe organisation. And if one of those is to try and start acquiring companies, and so be it. Sorry, you had a question?
It wasn't along the same lines.
Okay. Anything else at all, or I'll let you grab a pizza and beer and things.
Well, that's all. Let's give Adam a last big round of applause. Another big round of applause for Spielfeld again for hosting us tonight and putting everything up for us. Also have to thank our other sponsors and my co-organizer Anthony and his company Productive Mobile. They're generating ported enterprise apps from websites. If that's interesting to you, talk to him. We have another co-organizer who can't be here tonight, Ian from Atlantis. They're doing outsourced mobile development in Ukraine. If that's interesting to you, come talk to either me or Anthony. And then my company, Purdue, we're doing enterprise goal management software. If that's interesting to you, either come talk to me or my colleague Zeppelin. I also want to say that there's one last group we need to thank. It's you guys. The fact is, this is a community effort. We're doing B2B Berlin to really start a dialogue and showcase interesting things in the B2B community here in Berlin. And we're nothing, we're no community unless we have a great audience such as yourselves. So I invite you all, grab a slice of pizza, grab a beer, come join me, and we're also always looking for interesting speakers in the future. If you have a company that you think could be interesting to us, come talk to us. Anyway, take care, guys. Thanks so much for being here.